All right, it's time to set those lineups for week 3 of the fantasy season. Let's take a look at the quarterback and tight end position to figure out who should be in your lineup and who should be out. At quarterback, there's still several players you can count on. These are the must starts for week 3. Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Kyler Murray, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Lamar Jackson. At tight end, you got to stick with Sam Laporta, Trey McBride, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, and Brock Bowers. Before we set those lineups for fantasy, let's also set your picks for Underdog. That's right, if you haven't tried Underdog yet, it's a great time to sign up. You can start with this free pick for week 3. It's Aaron Rodgers just going higher than 0.5 total yards on Thursday night. That's right, you get that free pick if you sign up right now as a new customer using code ENDGAME when you sign up. Take advantage of this new customer special and still that 50% deposit match up to $1,000 in bonus cash. If you haven't tried Underdog yet, go ahead and do it now. Just make sure you use code ENDGAME when you sign up. All right, on Thursday night, when the Jets take on the Patriots, Jacoby Brissett is still the QB in New England. You know how this works, guys. We talk about every starting quarterback because some of you play Superflex or 2 QB leagues. So that said, Chris, what do you do with Jacoby Brissett?
I don't start him. I do not start him. I mean, I know the Jets defense hasn't quite been the defense we've expected so far, but it doesn't matter. 2 QB, Superflex, doesn't matter. Not starting Brissett.
If he was a no in week 1 and 2 for us, which he was, on the road against the Jets defense, it's a hard no. Now, we can't say the same for his tight end, Hunter Henry, who not only led all Patriots in targets, and in fact, he had more targets than every other Patriot combined. He also led all tight ends in yardage in week 2. Do we have to start Hunter Henry this week?
I'm not going to go out and say you have to start him. I mean, we've seen this before. But look, one thing about the Jets, they have a good secondary, but they do give up yards to tight end. So I think Hunter Henry, one of the better streaming options this week at tight end.
Right. I mean, I'm not picking up Henry and starting him over Sam Laporta just because of last week. But hey, if you're still hurting at tight end or you need someone off the waiver wire, definitely go with him. But here's one thing I know for sure. I'm definitely taking the higher on him in Underdog because right now his line is set to 32.5 receiving yards. He doesn't need to go for 100. He just needs to go over 32.5. I think he can do that. So if I'm doing my pick as an Underdog, I'm setting the higher for Hunter Henry. And if you haven't tried Underdog yet, you get that new customer special of Aaron Rodgers just getting 1 yard. That's a free pick. Take the Henry pick or any other pick you like. A great chance to win your very first shot. So just make sure when you do sign up for Underdog for the first time, you use promo code ENDGAME to take advantage of those free picks plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash. All right, now Aaron Rodgers did get you a yard last week. In fact, a few more. I know he'll get you 1 yard this week, but can he get you enough points to be fantasy relevant?
I can only say in a 2 QB Superflex league, and even then only more like a floor play in a 2 QB Superflex league. It's the Patriots. I don't expect him to, put up a ton of points here, but in a 2 QB Superflex, he's at least a floor play.
Yeah, I really think this Jets offense is going to be run heavy, conservative. They don't really have that many weapons. I'm probably never considering Rodgers in a 1 QB league. Superflex, again, kind of a low-end QB too. And then there's the tight end is Tyler Conklin, although you wouldn't know it from the box score. Does he do something this week?
Probably not. I mean, you know what he probably does? Run a lot of routes and not catch any passes. I'm not starting Tyler Conklin.
No reason to consider Conklin this week. Giants going to take on the Browns this week. Daniel Jones actually didn't look bad last week, but it was the Commanders' defense. And now on the road against Cleveland. I have a feeling I know where this is going.
Yeah, this is disaster is where this is going. Do not start Daniel Jones this week.
Yeah, honestly, anybody who might have been encouraged by what you saw in week 2, just be prepared. Honestly, I would go with Brissett over Daniel Jones if I was forced to choose one this week. Now on the other side, Deshaun Watson was at least not as horrible in week 2. He's at home. He gets the Giants. Is there a chance you would consider him as a streamer?
No, not a streamer in a 1 QB league, but in a 2 QB Superflex league, again, he's got a floor for you.
Agree. I'm not going to go crazy here. I mean, Superflex, at least you can feel good enough to start him, but not single QB leagues. Eagles taking on the Red Hot Saints. Jalen Hurts is a no-doubter. Dallas Goedert isn't, but does he have at least enough juice to get you by this week?
I don't know. After, a semi-promising week 1, a not very good week 2, I'd prefer not to start Dallas Goedert.
You'd think he could benefit from A.J. Brown being out, but that didn't happen on Monday night, and I don't think it happens against the Saints defense. They were really tough against tight ends last year. They look good this year. Not my favorite choice. Hopefully you can find someone with more upside. And then there's the hottest quarterback in the league, and of course I'm talking about Derek Carr. I mean, look, realistically, is Derek Carr a guy you can stream in a 1 QB league? Maybe you're still missing Jordan Love.
Yeah, at home against the Eagles, I think he's got to be one of the best streamers, even in a 1 QB league, as hard as that is for me to say. Yeah.
Yeah, not just based on the first 2 games, but this matchup is at home. Yeah, talked about him. He's going to be my top waiver wire add at QB if I need a QB. Now, as far as tight end, it looks like Foster Moreau is the guy. He's out there, a lot more snaps than anybody else. Did catch a touchdown in week 1. Is he a streaming option?
I mean, barely. Yeah, he caught that touchdown in week 1, and then I didn't even get targeted last week. Now, granted, Derek Carr only threw 16 passes, but this is desperation. I can't start Foster Moreau.
No, I don't think so. I mean, being on the field and being fantasy relevant are 2 different things. Foster Moreau is still kind of a touchdown or bust option. And Juwan Johnson, just kind of the same thing, except less chance because he's out there less.
Exactly. He's out there less. I mean, maybe he scores, but that's really just pure hope here, not starting Juwan Johnson. Do you want to get advice from Pierre and myself at the tip of your fingertips? Start sit, waiver wire, trades, and more? Well, you can do all of this and more on our new app, Draft Lane. We have the ability to view your roster, waivers, and more to give you the right feedback to make the perfect choice. And for a limited time, if you download Draft Lane and sign up, we're going to credit your account with $10 that you can use on any questions you like. Download Draft Lane from the App Store or Google Play now and take advantage of that free credit.
Texans are going to take on Minnesota this week, and CJ Stroud still a lock. Dalton Schultz, not so much.
No, I don't see how you can start Dalton Schultz. I mean, you got 3 good wide receivers. Vikings defense has been really good so far this year. I mean, you're just praying for a touchdown here. I'm not starting Dalton Schultz.
Not starting Dalton Schultz. I'll say this, not just that he hasn't put up any numbers yet, but the rookie Cade Stover started to get involved even early in that game. You got to wonder if Schultz is going to start losing snaps as well. I mean, Schultz definitely doesn't need to start. And then, hello, Sam Darnold. This is a guy who all of a sudden, he's got his team winning. Can he pull off an upset, maybe put up some fantasy numbers against Houston?
I mean, I doubted him against San Francisco, and look what he did. It sounds like he's going to have Justin Jefferson out there, but I still don't want to start him in a 1 QB league, even though he's been good. I still can't bring myself to do it, but 2 QB Superflex, he's fine.
Yeah, I mean, real life, been good. Fantasy, still not great. Not good enough to consider outside of Superflex, but hey, if you need a second quarterback, he can do. Denver's going to take on Tampa Bay this week. Start with Bo Nix. How deep of a league would it have to be to consider Bo Nix?
I don't even know. I mean, there's 32 starting QBs in a 2 QB league. It would have to be like a 16-teamer 2 QB league where literally every QB has to be started. Not starting Bo Nix.
There's no reason to even think about Bo Nix, no matter the league type. Nah. You can consider Baker Mayfield, though. It wasn't a huge week 2, but still good enough. He ran in a touchdown against this Denver defense. Is he a streaming option?
I think he's got to be. He's at home, not scared of this Denver defense. So, yeah, again, another guy. I still prefer Carr, but another good streaming option.
I feel like he could still get you by if you're without Jordan Love or you don't like whoever you have at quarterback. Like Baker Mayfield's got 2 elite wide receivers, and that's not going to change. So Mayfield is, I think, always going to be kind of a low-end QB1 option. And then there's the master of the wind sprint, Cade Otton. He's always out there, and yet doesn't seem to catch any passes.
Exactly. Not starting Cade Otton.
Packers at the Titans. Here we go. You had this circled all on your calendar preseason. It's the Malik Willis revenge game. Looks like Willis is getting the nod again after leading the Green Bay to victory last week. Does he put up points this week?
I mean, he runs a little bit. He could always run in a touchdown, but that's really it. You're getting nothing in the passing game here. You can't start Malik Willis.
I will say, look, if I'm in a super flex or 2 QB league, he's not the worst option. I would take him over Daniel Jones, Jacoby Brissett, Bo Nix. So if it's deep enough, sure, but that's it. At tight end, looks like Tucker Kraft is still leading the way. This would have to be really, really deep.
Yeah, maybe when Jordan Love comes back, we can start considering him, but not with Malik Willis.
Agree. No reason to look at tight end here. Let's sit Kraft if you even have. And then on Tennessee side, there's good old Will Levis. Continues to make highlight reel worthy plays for the wrong reasons, but he also does make some good plays on occasion. Is he a super flex option?
Yeah, super flex. I mean, I prefer him over some of the other guys we talked about that I said are just floor plays because at least he has some upside, but also risky. But yeah, super flex is fine.
Yeah, exactly. He's always going to be kind of that low-end QB2 if you need him. And then what about Chig Okonkwo at tight end?
Nah, I mean, he scored in week 1, but I didn't even hear his name in week 2. Did he do anything? Not much. I'm not starting Chig.
I don't think he did much, and I don't think he's going to do much here, so no reason to think about him. Bears going to take on the Colts. So Caleb Williams hasn't exactly looked the part of a number 1 quarterback yet. Does it start this week?
Probably not. I mean, look, the Colts, I don't know what's going on with the Colts, but they're not the team I expected them to be so far. But at the same time, you can't trust Caleb Williams right now. Even in Superflex, I can't start Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I'll say the Colts so far have been probably the most disappointing team in the NFL, at least to me. That said, Caleb Williams, he's not the worst option, but yeah, you really shouldn't need to start him this week. And if you still have Cole Kmet on your roster somehow, you probably shouldn't be considering him.
No, I mean, like, he got a little bit more involved last week, but no, I'm not starting Cole Kmet.
Chargers at Steelers this week. We're going to have to monitor Justin Herbert. Got banged up toward the end of week 2. If he's good to go, can you consider him against this Steelers defense?
No, on the road against the Steelers, I mean, you're like, oh, wow, 2 touchdowns last week, and then with 130 yards, and there's like 11 fantasy points with 2 touchdowns. How do you even do that? Like, no, I cannot start Justin Herbert on the road against the Steelers.
We've already seen what this offense looks like, exactly what we expected, and it's going to be that way all season. Whenever Herbert's out there, he's going to barely throw the ball. There is not a very high ceiling, so super flex just as a floor play. But if Herbert is ruled out, we're probably going to see Easton Stick. Got some run toward the end of last year. Does that change your opinion in any way?
No, I mean, I don't think they're going to be like, oh, Easton Stick starting, now we're going to throw it 40 times. And nah, not starting Easton Stick.
Yeah, exactly. Either way, I think this team, they're just going to be running the ball 40 plus times, so same thing. Now, the Steelers are running the ball a lot. That includes quarterback Justin Fields. Pretty good chance he gets another start because he's 2-0. Where do you rank Fields this week?
Again, super flex only. He's got that rushing upside, but I mean, really not a whole lot outside of that. But in a super flex league, he's fine.
I mean, props to Fields. He has gotten better in real life, but somehow that's made him worse for fantasy. Not taking deep shots down the field, not running as often if he doesn't need to. So yeah, really, honestly, more of a floor play. So super flex only. And what about the Muth, Pat Freiermuth, also in this low volume passing attack? Is he still even on the radar?
I mean, he's a floor streaming option. He'll get you some points. He won't kill you, but he probably won't really help you either.
Maybe at some point here he will find the end zone. Not sure if it'll happen this week. So again, you can put him out there just to get something in your lineup, but hopefully you have better options. Dolphins going to take on the Seahawks this week. You know, Tua Tagovailoa is out for the foreseeable future, which means we're going to see Skylar Thompson at quarterback. He's got Tyreek Hill, he's got Jalen Waddle, but is that enough?
No, I mean, look, if you're in a super flex league and you want to add him, go ahead, but I don't want to start him this week.
You already know I am terrified to even think about him in a fantasy lineup. Just has not been good with the opportunities he's been given. I really wish we had another quarterback here in Miami. No, I don't even want Skylar Thompson on a roster. And then Jonnu Smith at tight end, just when it looked like he might be coming on. Now this, man, I can't even put him anywhere in the conversation.
No, I mean, I can barely start Jalen Waddle. How am I going to start Jonnu Smith?
Now, Geno Smith looking pretty good in this new offense. 2 receivers going off in week 2 against this Dolphins secondary. How high can you be on Geno Smith?
I mean, I can't be super high. I mean, it's a good matchup for him, and he's at home, but I do worry that this is a game where, like, the Dolphins don't do anything on offense, and maybe Geno Smith doesn't have to throw a ton. But I said that last week, too, and look what happened. So, yeah, he's more of a... He's not a floor super flex play. He's a strong super flex play. I don't think I want him in 1 QB, though.
Well, I will say this to me depends on Kenneth Walker. If Walker is out again, I feel they're going to lean on the passing game, and we've seen what they can do. Got a lot of weapons against this Dolphins defense, and they probably won't do a lot on offense. I think Geno can be started in a 1 QB league. Again, if you need him. Again, you had Jordan Love. You've disappointed with whoever you drafted. Brock Purdy even. I might go Geno Smith over those guys. Now, Noah Fant has not benefited from this new look offense. Do we need to keep talking about Noah Fant?
I don't know. Like, there was all this hype about Noah Fant in the offseason, so I feel like we have to keep talking about him, but he's done nothing. I'm not starting Noah Fant.
I think we now can say we know what Noah Fant is, and that's not fantasy relevant. Panthers going to take on the Raiders this week. We have a quarterback change. That's right. Don't have to think about Bryce Young. It's Andy Dalton time. Can Andy Dalton do something for fantasy in week 3?
I mean, he's got to be better than Bryce Young. It's hard to be worse than Bryce Young, but at the same time, I mean, how old is, like, 40? I don't even know. How old is Andy Dalton? I'm not starting Andy Dalton.
Better than Bryce Young? Sure. Good enough for fantasy? Well, in a 2 QB league, sure. I've already listed several quarterbacks I would like less than Andy Dalton, but not too many. Now, Gardner Minshew did show a little something in that come from behind win in week 2. What do you think about Minshew for fantasy, though?
Same as I always think. I mean, every now and then he'll have a game like that where you're like, ooh, Minshew's not bad. And then you put him in your Superflex lineup and you're like, oh, yeah, wait, he is bad. I mean, if you're desperate in Superflex, sure, but that's it.
I mean, he does get the Panthers this week, but still, he's not going for 3 or 4 touchdowns, 300 yards. That's just not who he is, and they probably won't need to pass the ball that much. So, Superflex as a floor play. 49ers at the Rams. Let's talk Brock Purdy now. First without CMC, now without Deebo Samuel, at least for a couple of weeks. Is Brock Purdy still a streaming option?
Well, I'm definitely worried about Brock Purdy for the foreseeable future, but at the same time, this is the Rams. Their defense does not scare me at all. He still has Ayuk. He still has Kittle. I don't think Purdy has the highest ceiling this week, but I still think even in a 1 QB league, he's streamable.
I know this Rams defense isn't that great right now. I mean, Purdy wasn't really good for fantasy the first 2 weeks with Deebo healthy. I just don't feel like he has enough upside right now, so I'd rather take shots on other guys like Geno Smith and Derek Carr if I can help it, but he's still startable in the Superflex. And then what do we do with Matt Stafford now without his top 2 wide receivers?
Man, I don't think you can start Stafford. I mean, maybe in 2 QB Superflex, but against the 49ers without Kupp, without Puka, behind this banged up offensive line, honestly, I'm sitting Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I mean, it was ugly last week. It could get worse. And like you said, that's a good point. Not just the receivers hurt, these offensive linemen. So, man, I think you just have to avoid Stafford. And then Colby Parkinson, you'd think he might benefit from those vacated targets. He really didn't. Is he a guy we should avoid too?
I mean, yeah, on paper it makes sense. Like, you know, all these wide receivers out, the tight end should benefit. But I think what's really going to happen is he's going to just block for Kyren Williams. So probably should look elsewhere at tight end.
Yeah, I'm going to look elsewhere this week, especially against this 49ers defense. I'll just have to pass. All right, Lions taking on the Cardinals. You got Kyler McBride, that Murray McBride stack. You're good to go. And yes, we're still going to keep Laporta in our lineups for now. But what about Jared Goff going in Arizona?
Yeah, it's on the road, but it's also Arizona. You can't be too scared here. But also, Goff hasn't really put up any big games so far. So I'm going to say Goff only in 2 QB Superflex.
Yeah, you know, usually home Goff is a good Goff, but last week he did let down. I wonder if he has to throw the ball more because they've been able to sit back and run a lot. Jameson Williams breaking out. You think that'd be good for Goff, but it really hasn't worked in his favor. I think he's just a risky streamer this week. He does have some upside, but I prefer to reserve him for Superflex leagues. Ravens taking on the Cowboys this week. Yeah, we're still going to keep Mark Andrews in lineups because, as predicted, he's still the number one tight end there in Baltimore. So what do you do if you picked up Isaiah Likely?
You just hold him. I'm not starting Isaiah Likely. I think we're just going to see more and more Andrews, but yeah, you picked up Likely, just hold him, but don't start him.
It's almost like you could see this coming, right? A week one breakout doesn't turn into much. Look, let's see. He'll still have his moments, but I don't know if week 3 is it. So you can stash him, but don't start him. Dak Prescott didn't have the best week 2. Does he bounce back here against this Baltimore defense?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what's going on here? Like, he's at home. He should be good, but it's the Ravens. I know Minshew threw a touchdown against. Come on, I mean, I'm not all of a sudden thinking the Ravens are a bad defense. So, but it's Dak Prescott at home. I think even in a 1 QB league, he's startable.
You know, one of these teams is going to come away really disappointed with how they've started the season after this game. I think the Cowboys mostly bounce back. Dak is still pretty much a low-end QB1 to me. So if he's your guy, you can just roll with him. Now, Jake Ferguson's status is still going to be up in the air. He missed week 2. Not sure yet about week 3. If he comes back, can you trust him?
Yeah, why not? I mean, how many tight ends you really feel better about than Jake Ferguson this week? If he's out there, I'm playing him.
Agree. I mean, Baltimore defense has been kind of disappointing lately. Ferguson will get targets, always could score touchdowns. So Ferguson was your guy. You can go with him too. Now, if Ferguson isn't available again, Luke Schoonmaker is going to be the starter. He actually did a little something last week. Would you just put him in Ferguson's place?
I would. I mean, I think he at least has a decent floor. And look, at the tight end position, he's not even that bad. It wasn't even that bad last week. So, yes.
Gonna agree. I mean, he was doing his best Ferguson imitation. This tight end and this offense always has value. So if Schoonmaker's who you got or whoever you did pick up, let's say Colby Parkinson, was disappointing, just go with Schoonmaker instead if Ferguson's out. Chiefs taking on the Falcons this week. Let's talk Kirk Cousins. I mean, it looked like he was pretty much dead in the water and then led a comeback on Monday night. The stats still weren't great, but is this encouraging enough that now you might consider starting him?
I'm still not ready to start him in a 1 QB league. I mean, he really wasn't doing much before that final drive there, but I think at least this gives me enough confidence in a 2 QB Superflex league.
I will say I don't feel like he's back, right? He doesn't look 100%, and this offense is still kind of figuring things out. Superflex, sure. I mean, he's going to have a higher floor than a lot of those other quarterbacks, but I still don't want to chance it. This is not a great matchup for a 1 QB league. And then the Kyle Pitts Truthers took a little step back in week 2 as he did pretty much nothing. Do you just keep the faith here?
I mean, again, it's terrifying, but I think you have to. It's like, how many tight ends do you feel better about than Kyle Pitts right now? So give him another week, see what happens.
That's exactly right. Exactly. How many other tight ends have his kind of upside? It's going to be a roller coaster, but that's just kind of the tight end position, isn't it? On Monday night, the first of 2 games will be the Jaguars at the Bills. So Trevor Lawrence, what do we do with him in this matchup?
I cannot feel good about Trevor Lawrence. He hasn't looked good really this year. This Bills defense looks good. They're on the road in Buffalo. He's barely in the 2 QB Superflex range for me.
Yeah, I had my doubts about Lawrence in this offense before the season. Definitely don't want to start him in a 1 QB league, so reserved for Superflex only. Now, Evan Engram should be a set and forget, but couldn't start him in week 2 because of that last-minute hamstring injury right before game time. May not suit up in week 3. If he does, can you trust him?
I mean, trust is going to be tough on the road against Buffalo coming off a hamstring injury. But again, like how many tight ends are out there that you're like, oh yeah, this guy over Evan Engram, no problem. So if he plays, you probably just have to play him.
Yeah, I will say this. You maybe should be encouraged by the fact that in his absence, guys like Brenton Strange and Luke Farrell will get in targets for Jacksonville. They're still throwing to the tight end. So if Engram is good to go, I'm just sticking with him. And on the Buffalo side, I don't know if we can just set and forget Dalton Kincaid anymore. Has been a big disappointment so far. Bounce back or do you bench him to teach him a lesson?
Bench him to teach him a lesson? No. I mean, I'm still starting Dalton Kincaid. Again, how many, is there a tight end out there on the waiver wire that you're like, I feel so much better about this guy than Dalton Kincaid, I can bench Kincaid? Start Kincaid.
I know everyone's ready to throw out the bust label on. It's been 2 games. 2 games. And they really didn't need to pass the ball much in week 2. So, yeah, if I got Kincaid, I'm still starting him. And week 3 will end with the Commanders at the Bengals. Let's talk Jaden Daniels. Ran a lot again, but didn't run in touchdowns. In fact, there were no touchdowns for the Commanders in week 2 against the Giants. Does he do better in week 3?
I mean, maybe, but the nice thing about him is, well, 2 nice things. Number 1, they're asking him to just get the ball out quick, short passes, so he's not turning the ball over yet, which is nice. But also, he is giving you that rushing. He could score, so he at least gives you a floor. So I think even in a 1 QB league, I'm still fine starting Daniels.
It's frustrating for fantasy. I will agree they're kind of playing it smart here by limiting sacks and interceptions, turnovers by Daniels. At some point, it'll click. I don't know if it's this week. I guess he's still streamable, but only if you need him. Now, Zach Ertz did come on a little bit after a disappointing opener. Caught a few passes in week 2. Is he on the radar for week 3?
No, I mean, this is just floor. I can't even say floor. This is like a slightly worse Pat Freiermuth for fantasy. I'm not starting Ertz.
Ouch. Well, I can't disagree. I mean, got you some yardage, but again, if this offense isn't scoring touchdowns, is there a ceiling here? So no, probably not Ertz. And on the Cincinnati side, Joe Burrow. Is he still a guy that if you drafted him, you just keep starting him?
This week, definitely. It's the Commanders, and he looked good last week. I think Joe Burrow, a very strong start this week.
Well, he just has to be. And yes, I was encouraged by what he showed at Kansas City without T. Higgins. Even if Higgins doesn't come back, which he probably won't, I'm going to start Burrow. He's got to do something. In fact, he should light up this defense. And the Bengals were very active, throwing to the tight end, first and foremost, Mike Gesicki. Remember him? Well, not only was he the leading tight end, he was the leading receiver for the Bengals, and that includes, yes, more yardage than Jamar Chase. I mean, Gesicki is obviously a strong add if you need a tight end, but how good should we feel about him in this matchup?
Look, Gesicki could always be a trap. There's no way around this, but it's the Commanders. They're at home. He's getting targeted. Remember in week 1, he should have had a touchdown. I think Gesicki is one of your better streaming options this week.
He's got to be, and of course, it could absolutely be a trap, but let's take that shot because, again, look at the tight end landscape here. If you need one, you might as well roll him out there. Now you know all about the quarterbacks and tight ends to trust or not in week 3. If you missed it, we got running back and wide receiver start sit along with all the other help you need for week 3 right here in this playlist.